All right, guys, here we are with episode number 4 of my Boston Red Sox franchise, GM mode, whatever you want to call it, on Out of the Park Baseball 21. It is Thursday, May 28th, 2020, and the Red Sox are 2 games out of a wild card spot. We are 29 and 28 somehow. I'm going to tell you somehow why in a second. So surprisingly, this team, this I don't know. I can't think of an adjective to describe it, but this team was actually playing very good baseball, I'd say, up until about a week ago. We were, I think, only 4 games back of the Yankees. We were in a wild card spot. We were only up 1 game. You can see the American League wild card race has been pretty good so far. It's been pretty tight. I think that's one of the reasons why we're still in it, despite the fact that we're only 1 game above 500. But this team is playing very good. So we know what happened in April. And you see, May, it started off very well. We took 2 out of 3 from the Rangers. We swept the Angels. Took 2 out of 3 at New York against the Yankees. We took both of these games in an interleague series against the Braves. We took 3 of 4 from the Rangers. We played them again. Took 2 of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays. So we were doing pretty well. And the wheels just started coming off. The Astros won 15-5. We got swept by the Astros. We lost 15-5. We lost 18-1, and then we had a series against the Royals that's still going on. There's 1 game left, and we've lost 16-8, 22-1, and 28-1 so far, which is, I don't think that is ideal. I can't say in all my time of doing an Out of the Park baseball series on YouTube, I can't remember one of my teams getting throttled like this over the span of 5 days. This is unprecedented territory for me, and I'd have to imagine, because I said we're 29 and 28. Now, if I go into, so we take a look, we've scored 289 runs. And we've allowed 350. So if we go into I want to go into our history and look at our Pythagorean win-loss. That's the expected record. It takes into account your run differential. Our Pythagorean win-loss is 24 and 23. So we're getting a little lucky here. Now, I know that these past 5 games have kind of skewed that a little bit. I'm sure it was a little better 5 days ago before we started getting blown out, but clearly, this team is, in some aspects, it's average. I mean, we take a look at our team stats rankings for the American League. We're 7th in runs scored. We're 7th in OBP. We're 7th in OPS. We're basically 7th in everything except batting average, which I really don't care about. We're 12th in home runs. As you see, Verdugo, one of our main power threats, got injured again, so he is out for about another 3 weeks. Our pitching staff is clearly the big deterrent right now. 13th in starters ERA, 15th in runs against in the American League, so we're last. 15th in bullpen ERA, 12th in FIP, 10th in pitching WAR. The defense has been very, very bad, which I'm not surprised about. 14th in defensive efficiency, 8th in zone rating, tied for 7th in errors. So this team has been average or below average or just very, very, very bad in a lot of aspects this year. The only thing that we're somehow good at is batting average in the American League, which we are 3rd in. But if this team is going to make some type of run, and I'm not even going to say a championship run, just some type of run into the postseason, and you see all of our relievers are incredibly tired because we've been getting throttled for the past 5 games, so our starters don't last very long. And so then these bullpen guys have to come in, and they are very, very tired. So I might actually have to send down a couple batters and bring up a couple relievers just so we can maybe kind of tread water through these next few games. I don't know, because we have to play Houston again, and then we have to play Cleveland. And actually, I guess it would be easier just to do this. So we have Houston, and then we have Cleveland, then the Brewers, then the Rays, and this is a very tough stretch. You got the Rays, the Yankees, the Braves, the Cubs and Angels. That's, well, for this team, that'll probably be a challenge. But I decided to start here on Thursday, May 28th, because we are about a week out from the 2020 draft, and we are going to get the draft done in this episode. I don't know if we're going to get to the All-Star break. We will see. I I tend to go a little longer than I think I do, because I look at the record time when I'm done, and it's a lot longer, which is why there were 2 episodes that were released on Friday. That was not the plan, but my record file was, I think, an hour and a half, so I was like, okay, might as well split these up into 2 different videos, and that seemed to work. By the way, thank you once again for all the support. It really, truly does mean a lot, guys. I really, truly do appreciate it, interacting with you guys in the comments, and just having people watch my videos. That'll always be weird to me. It was weird when I first started this several years ago, back in I guess that would have been 2016. And it's still weird to me now that people take the time out of their day, even just a little bit of time, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes of my videos, just to sit there and watch it, which is pretty cool. So thank you so much. I truly do appreciate it. It means a lot. But as I said, we're about a week out from the draft, and what I've been doing is scouting. So you see that we are 17th in the draft order right now. Well, I say right now, but we're 17th, so we will have the 17th pick in the 2020 draft. And basically what I've been doing, this is something kind of new that you have to do this year. I go into the draft pool, and you see the scouting accuracy. So for a while, a lot of this was low, but between just the scout doing what he wanted and me telling him certain players to draft, see the lowest thing that we have here is average. And there's not a ton of average guys, because you got to remember there's a lot of players that are being shown here right now. So there's a lot of high scouting accuracy. There's some very high. So basically, I've been just telling my scout who to take a look at. And so, for example, if I want him to take a look at this guy, right, Micah Bell, he is a high schooler. He is 18 years old. So we'll take a look, and yeah, sure, he's got 4 pitches. The changeup might not develop, but the other 3 look like they will. And he's got these ratings here too, so it seems like he might have solid stuff, maybe a little above average stuff, movement and control, and power pitcher, which I don't really have a preference for that. But so let's say I want to scout him, so I'm just gonna request a scouting report on him. And okay, so it's been added to my scouts to-do list. So I'm gonna do a couple more while I'm here. So I'm looking at all pitchers. I want to look at all players. And you see there's 2,246 players, so none of them have that low scouting accuracy anymore. All of them are at least average, and most of them are high, which is really good. So let's say not only do I want to scout him, but I want to scout, I don't know, Austin Hendrick, this right fielder, also in high school. So we're going to request a scouting report on Austin Hendrick. And the more times you scout a player, the higher, naturally, this is going to sound very stupid, right? But the more times you scout a player, the higher the accuracy will be. Now, obviously, you never know what these prospects are going to do. The Major League Baseball draft, I think, way more than other sports. It's so, I don't want to say random. That's not a good way to put it, but it's such a crapshoot, really. It's, there's 40 rounds. There's so many guys. You're trying to project what 18-year-olds in some cases are going to be able to do. 17-year-olds in some cases are going to be able to do 5, 10, 15 years down the road. It's so difficult. So even if the scouting accuracy is high, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that these guys are going to be full-on studs. Even if you develop them the best that you possibly can, maybe it doesn't work out, but the higher your scouting accuracy is, the better way you can make a more informed decision about who you're going to select with your picks in the draft. And I will say that you see these potential ratings here. It does depend on the type of scout that you have. So as I said, my scout, if we go back to front office and scouting, he highly favors tools. So if we go back to the draft and the draft pool, you'll see that some of these ratings might be a little higher than what you're seeing, and that's partially because of the scouting accuracy, I think, and partially because of the scout that you have. My scout in my Phillies franchise, he favors ability. And so when I went into the draft pool, there were not a lot of ratings like this. There were, I think, a few 3-star ratings, then a lot of 2.5. So the fact that there's 3.5 and 4 for my guy, it just goes to show you what the scouts are all different. They're going to look for different things. They're going to view players differently. So at the end of the day, you just have to scout as much as you can with the scout that you have and make the most informed decision. Now, when we get into the draft, I'll show you kind of what I kind of like to do. You don't have to do the same thing. In fact, I think it's cool that a lot of people do different things when it comes to the draft. I think that's really cool. But I will simulate up a week to the draft. Hopefully, this team stops letting up runs by the dozens, and we can actually start getting back on our wild card push. So I'll be back on June 4th, hopefully with some good news. Okay, it is June 4th. Things have not gotten a lot better. So when all was said and done, we went on a 9-game losing streak. We finally stopped letting up 20 runs a game, which is a big positive in my eyes. That's something that we can take home with us. So we won 1 game against the Astros, and then we proceeded to lose 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. It's not going well for us right now. Clearly, this is not a playoff team, and we might have to start selling some pieces off sooner rather than later. I know that John Henry, for some reason, thinks that this is a team that can win the championship. I don't really quite know what I can do to make this a championship team. There are a couple things I want to talk about. If we go to manager options, I am in control of everything. This is something that I've kind of gotten comfortable doing now, which I wasn't before. So it does require a little more busy work on my end. Basically, I kind of have to check all of these rosters every so often. Like right here, you see this guy. He's only out for 2 days, but I got to make sure for someone. Let me see. There's not really anyone, which is good, but you always got to kind of check these rosters just to make sure there's nobody injured for too long. Like, see, this guy just got a torn UCL, so I'm going to have to place him on the injured list, and now I got to have to go to, I think that was Salem, and now you see that we could probably use another pitcher here at high A, so I kind of have to go to rosters and transactions, and I got to kind of figure out, actually, it's probably going to be easier to do it this way, see if I can maybe get someone from mid A that's been doing well. So typically when I look for pitchers to promote, is Murphy okay? Okay. I look for guys that aren't walking a lot of batters, and depending on the type of pitcher that they are, maybe if they're striking out a good amount, I look for that as well. I'm not, I do take a look at ERA, I do take a look at FIP, but I tend to like to look at just the walks and the strikeouts. That kind of gives me a good indicator, and it looks like none of these guys are really quite ready for a promotion. So this is a little concerning. Because I do want to bring another pitcher for sure up to high A. Now, the level difference isn't really that big, so I could theoretically call up any of these guys and would probably be fine. And I see my first baseman is... Oh, okay. I suppose it would make more sense to just set him as a relief pitcher, would it not? Set position, reliever. Okay. Cool. Great. Awesome. So we will call up one of these guys. Typically, if their walks per 9 innings are more than 4.5 to 5, I don't like to promote them. I just don't think they're ready at that point. So, taking a look here, it seems, he was at high A and then he got sent down. I don't know why. That might have been before I took over. So we're gonna throw this guy back up to high A Salem, and that way they get another pitcher for their bullpen. And so we're going to ask the manager for the staff, and now we have 7 relievers, which is, I think, an okay number. Anyway, here we go. First year player draft. Let's get in, and before we do that, let's just take a look at who OSA thinks are the top 10 prospects. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of these are from college, 5 from high school. I do recognize all of these names, so I doubt that any of these guys are going to follow us, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. I don't want to negotiate. I want to go to the draft. And so let's start the draft. And let's take a look. We'll make sure this is on all players, and we'll scroll all the way up, and there we go. So we'll go into the next pick by Boston, which, as I said, is 17th overall. And I have a couple guys that I would like to get, and I see a couple of them right now, so I'm glad that they're there. So let's take a look at the draft log. So Austin Martin, no surprise, went number 1 overall. OSA seems to really like him. They think that he will be a high contact hitter with some power, good in the field, good speed. He'll have a good eye at the plate. Our head scout wasn't, as high on him as OSA, but it's pretty similar. Asa Lacy went number 2, Jordan Walker 3 to Miami, Spencer Torkelson went 4th, Emerson Hancock 5th, and then Bitsko Kelly, who I really wanted Jared Kelly, but I knew he wasn't going to be there. Nick Gonzalez, McAble, and Ed Howard, your top 10. So we'll take a look at who is available. Continue the draft. So there's definitely a couple guys. Drew Romo was a guy that I was looking at. I think that a catcher like this can be so important and so helpful as he's rising up your minor league system. And the fact that he seems that he could develop some type of offensive firepower at the plate is just a bonus. But a guy like this at only 18 years old that's so good behind the dish that could definitely help our young pitchers at the minor league levels as he's rising up. And then once he reaches the majors, I think that would be huge. So if we go into scouting, we'll see what Paul Taboni thinks. An outstanding fielder, potentially one of the best at his position. Patient approach at the plate. His batting average might suffer, but he is considered a reliable hitter. We'll see what OSA seems to think about him, and OSA likes him a lot more, actually. They think that his offense is going to come around a lot more, and he could be even better offensively. So he's a guy that I'm looking at. And typically what my draft strategy is as I've kind of matured over the years, I kind of have the mindset of grow the arms and buy the bats. So if there's a pitcher and a batter that I like equally, I'm probably more prone to go for the arm just because it's so difficult to get good starting pitching, both in this game and in real life. So I kind of like to just get as much pitchers as I can. Now, he wants $9 million from high school, so that's obviously not a guy that we're going to look at. You can sometimes get them for less depending on what their signability rating is, but take a look. Like this guy, it's if it was between him and Romo, I would definitely take Romo. So we'll take a look at a couple other guys here. I really don't want to spend a ton. If I could go under slot for the first pick, that would be great because then I could spend maybe more later on. And for those of you that might not know what that means, you see each of these picks has a slot draft value associated with it. So the first pick was $7 million. My pick is 4.49. So when I say under slot, what I mean is if I can pay my first round pick, my second round pick less than that slot value, I can afford to spend more money later on in the draft on guys that maybe, had first round potential, but the demand was too high. So I really, really want to go with Drew Romo. I think that he would be a good one. 4.8 million. I mean, that's like right at slot value. And it looks like he could be a pretty solid pitcher. He has the mental skills to effectively handle big game pressure. He's a college junior out of Florida State. It seemed like he did pretty well in his junior year. If you take a look at what our scout thinks, 3 pitches, his bread and butter, an average curveball, a quality mid-rotation starter. I'm not against it at 4.8 million. As I said, that is basically slot value. And it seems like he could develop into a pretty solid piece for us. But I'm just so drawn to Drew Romo. I know I'm going to regret it if I don't get him. So we're going to draft Drew Romo. I know it's a little risky. He is a high schooler. High schoolers are obviously a little tougher to project because you're projecting them when they're 18 and 17 years old as to what they might be, as an adult. But I really like Drew Romo. We're going to draft him, and then we're going to move on to the second round, and maybe we'll be able to grab, a nice college starting pitcher in the second round. I think that would be nice. So we're going to auto draft to the next pick, and let's see if anybody's available. So there are still some solid pitchers here that I actually was looking at a lot. Let's see. So Kevin Abel, he was the one, he had the torn UCL. He just underwent Tommy John. It seems like his stuff isn't super great, and it's never going to be super great. He can be a mid-rotation starter. He sits 89 to 91. That might improve maybe a little bit. The stamina, I don't think will be an issue. It seems like he could have 3 good pitches. There was another guy that I was looking at, and it was this guy, Ian Bedell, the college junior from Missouri. Had a pretty solid season this year in college. He struck out 164, walked only 40. It seems like, once again, another guy with 3 solid pitches. The stuff seems to be a little better. It seems like he might have a little more control. He sits a little higher at 92 to 94. So take a look at the scouting. Could become a solid starter, but his stuff may prove even better in relief, which I wouldn't hate. I mean, it's always good to have good relief pitchers, and I do agree that this guy seems like he could maybe be a reliable mid reliever. But I do kind of like Ian Bedell. I would not be against taking him. How about this guy from Lafayette? I guess he's pretty similar. A lot of these guys are similar. They have 2 pitches that are, solid right now, and then a third that they're trying to develop, which is pretty realistic, I suppose. I am looking at all players, correct? Not just all pitchers? Yeah, okay. A lot of pitchers here at this point. Berkwich seems to be pretty similar to, yeah, they're all pretty similar. I mean, at this point it comes down to draftability. I mean, Bedell wants $1.3 million, which isn't outrageous for a mid-second round pick, I guess. Jordan Anderson, he's seems like the bat's never going to really come around, but he'd be good in the field and on the bases. I think I'm going to go with this Ian Bedell. I'll look at. I have to wait. I do want to look here at Tanner Bibby, another college junior, a lot of college juniors. OSA seems to like him a little bit more than my head scout does. It seemed like he had an okay year at Cal State Fullerton as a junior, but I really think I'm going to go with Bedell. I think that would be a good pick. I think that he could definitely develop into a solid mid-rotation starter, which is always valuable. So we're going to draft him, draft Ian Bedell. Normally, when I draft pitchers, I like to just go by the number of pitches, just because it's, as I said, the draft is a crapshoot, especially when it comes to pitchers. So Ryan Bruno was a guy that I was looking at, but the 25 changeup kind of scares me. Normally, when they have that low, even as a high schooler, it's pretty rare for them, in my experiences at least, to develop that pitch. But the stuff seemed pretty good. He could be a pretty solid relief pitcher, it looked like. I mean, the movement's not great. You'd like the movement to be a little higher as a reliever, but Bruno should deserve a spot in the rotation, but likely closer to the bottom than the top. High scouting accuracy. He's a fly ball pitcher. I do try to stay away from those, especially as someone now that's taking over the Red Sox and the AL East. The fly ball pitcher is a little concerning. So we'll take a look here. So as I said, when I look at pitchers, I kind of like to look at number of pitches. It's just something that I like to look at. So if we go to individual pitch potential, normally, can I get that off the screen? There we go. If they have 4, that's normally pretty cool. A lot of them only have 3, which is fine, but maybe just sort by fastball, see who's going to have a good fastball maybe. This is also a good way to find some relievers. Now, a cool thing that you might actually see right now, so you see starting pitcher, relief pitcher, shortstop. So one way to kind of find value where you wouldn't expect it is to not stay on that default screen, go into individual pitch potential or just any of these potential things. And you can kind of see guys that, you take a look at this guy as a shortstop. It doesn't really look like he is going to be all that great at the plate. But if you go into ratings, it seems if you take a look at his ratings, it seems like he could be maybe a pretty solid relief pitcher. Maybe not, a shutdown closer or anything like that, but it seems like he could have 2 elite pitches. Once again, I doubt that the changeup's going to develop, but you see his stuff's going to be pretty solid. His control's not going to be awful, so it seems like he could be a pretty reliable mid reliever, but you wouldn't know that if you just saw that he played shortstop. So I like to go into these potential tabs here. So if I go to batting potential, for example, and I sort by power, so I might exactly this Kemp Alderman guy, right? So he's probably not the best example. Actually, this is a guy that I might want to take. Fly ball pitcher, but still is a guy I might want to take. He's a pretty solid starter, but if we go into his ratings profile, it seems like he could have some pretty good untapped raw power potential. It seems like he could hit the ball in the gap, have a pretty solid eye at the plate. So it seems like he could be a pretty solid power hitter. It seems like he'd only be limited to probably first base, but that's a cool thing to see. If you just sort by these, you might see like Caden Grice, for example, a guy that it doesn't look like he's going to be any good at all as a pitcher. Now, obviously, he's only 17, but if you go into ratings, another guy that has pretty good power potential, and power potential is always good. It always has value. It's always good to develop a lot of power guys. You can usually sell them for pretty good returns relatively. But It's just a good thing to check. If you see someone's a starting pitcher, don't always assume that all they can do is pitch. I mean, especially now when you see more two-way players becoming more popular. It's not necessarily all these guys are going to play two ways, but you can kind of see if one guy maybe he's better as a pitcher than as a first baseman, or if he's better as a reliever than as a center fielder or something like that. So it's always good to check that. Now, that Kemp Alderman guy is actually he's only 17, which does kind of scare me a little bit. But let's see what our scout thinks of him. He has the makings of a fifth starter, which isn't awful. I'm not totally against that. 17 years old does kind of scare me. He's not going to be 18 until August, which is weird. But he only wants $360,000, which for a third-round pick is pretty good. It seems like his pitches probably have a high chance to develop as well. The movement's not going to really be there, but I'm going to take a chance. It's always so risky taking these young, really young high school players because you never really know how they're going to develop when they get into professional ball. But regardless, I'm going to take a shot on him. Just try to get as much young talent in here as possible and then go from there. Now, another thing that I like to do in the draft, for those of you that might not be familiar with this game, so we'll sort by potential again and get all the way to the top. So these are what my scout kind of sees these players as, but I always like to go to the OSA's role. In fact, when you see me go into a player page, you might see me say, well, let's see what OSA says and click the OSA tab. Now, OSA typically, and this is how the manual kind of describes it. I'm not looking at the manual, but basically OSA, it's kind of like a woefully underfunded scouting organization that gives these reports to every team. They're not going to be as accurate because they're not seeing these guys as much, but I like to always compare what my head scout thinks and what OSA thinks. And if they're kind of in agreement that is one way to see maybe if you can, it's one way to see if the player might be any good. Like if both your head scout and OSA thinks they're going to be good, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to be good. Whereas if only one person thinks they're going to be good, the other person thinks they're going to be a bust, maybe you have to think about it a little longer. But actually, this guy seems to be a pretty good selection here. OSA likes him a little more. Our head scout thinks that his stuff and his control are going to be a little worse, but the pitches are really, really exciting. He has this really good curveball. The fastball is pretty solid. He sits 91 to 93. He's neutral, so he's not a fly ball pitcher. I like this guy a lot, this Jeff Criswell guy. He's 21 years old. Had a solid year at the University of Michigan, a 3.35 ERA, 24.6% strikeout percentage. His strikeout percentage to walk percentage was 17, which is pretty good. He's basically a 3-win player, so I'm going to take a chance on this guy, actually. Jeff Criswell. Where is he? There he is. Jeff Criswell. And there we go. So we're going to draft him in the 4th round. And yeah, so let's go. Now, I'm not going to show you guys every pick. I'm not going to do all 40 of these picks, but I figured I'd just kind of show you like what my thought process is for a few of them. And that way, maybe you guys can just, once again, I'm going to say this a lot. You don't have to do what I do. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm far from an expert when it comes to OOTP, but I just like to kind of get out there what I like to do. That way, maybe when you get into your first-year player drafts, you kind of have something to kind of go off of, like, okay, well, he said to do this, so maybe let's check this and see if it will work out for me. But everyone has their own drafting strategy. Everyone has their own ways of doing things that work for them. So just do what you want to do, and yeah, that's why this game is so fun. Now, a relief pitcher would not be the worst thing in the world. You can never have too many relief pitchers, and this guy, fly ball pitcher, it's a little, as I said, I usually try to stay away from those, but it's not the worst thing in the world if you can kind of keep it in check. As long as they're not letting up a ton of home runs, you can usually get by. A lot of pitchers available, which is kind of fine. A lot of high schoolers. Let's take a look at this guy, Riley Egloff, JUCO sophomore from Yavapai in Arizona. Had a pretty solid couple years at that JUCO, it would seem like. It seemed like he did not start a lot in 2019, started every game this season. And it seems like another guy that could probably be maybe a good back rotation starter. Yeah, likely that of a 5th starter. So, yeah, I mean, the stuff, the movement, and the control, they are kind of, average, maybe a little below. But with those 3 pitches, if they do develop, it seems like he could be a pretty solid pitcher. So I'm going to take a chance on Riley Egloff, and then maybe try to get a batter in the next round. I think that might be a good thing to do. Let's take a look here. Auto draft till next pick by Boston. And let's take a look at the batters. So all batters. I suppose I don't need to do that, actually. Just all players. And let's go to batting potential. So as I said, I like to kind of look at power in the draft. I mean, if there are good contact potential guys, maybe I'll take them later. But I kind of like to look at power. And this shortstop actually seems like he could be pretty solid. He does have some power to him that maybe he is a ground ball hitter, which isn't great. But it seems like he's had a solid year. Where is he? So he's a JUCO freshman. So he's first year at Polk State. He had an OPS of 928. He's 19 years old. He doesn't strike out a ton. He walks at a decent clip. I'm not totally against taking a guy like this. Because he does have some power potential. Even a guy like a Trey Morgan, once again, another high schooler. I really don't like the fact that I take a lot of high schoolers, but take a look at what he thinks. A solid starter at first base, like a bland diet rather than a spicy play. Morgan projects to be a solid starter at first base. I mean, that's... you never want to draft based on, like, what you already have, at least in my opinion. So, like, I know we have Tristan Cassius. I know I have Bobby Dahlbeck at the corners, but you shouldn't let that stop you from drafting a guy like Trey Morgan, right? Like, it's never a bad thing in baseball to have too much minor league talent at one position. It's never a bad thing. Like, the worst thing possible, you trade them for someone that can help you in your major league team, right? So it's never a bad thing to have too much talent at one position in your minor league organization. But I am kind of... This Alec Burleson guy's kind of interesting. Won't have a great eye, which isn't great. This David Ducote shortstop is really appealing to me. So I'm going to take a chance on Dylan Ducote. And we are going to draft him. And we are going to go into the next pick by Boston. So now we are in the 7th round. Now, Trey Morgan guys still in. I want to take a look at power. These 60 grade power guys are kind of interesting. Especially a guy like, I don't know, both these guys are actually kind of interesting. They are both from high school, which isn't great. I feel like I'm drafting a lot of high schoolers. So this guy from Canada, Notre Dame, high school senior, poor competition level, but he absolutely obliterated that. It seems like he could be pretty solid with the bat. Maybe Owen. Oh, that's who I was just on. Whoops. Kellum Clark. Also, you don't have to do what I do, keep clicking this back button. You can just go up and down using these buttons to go through the prospects. Kellum Clark, he'd definitely be a first baseman, fly ball hitter, focused, but actually, if you take a look here, signability impossible. Now, fun fact, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that you have to offer them so much money that it would seem to be impossible. So I usually never draft guys like that. I mean, I'd like to get a power bat. I just don't know who. I mean, a contact potential of 35 isn't super great, and OSA doesn't think he's ever going to be great at the plate either. He only hit 272. Ceiling is a bench roll. I mean, we're in the 7th round. So, I mean, if any of these guys do develop into like a bench player, that would be nice. I really would like to avoid taking another high schooler. I mean, a guy like a Danny Zimmerman wouldn't be the worst thing. He would be another first baseman too, because I don't think he's ever going to be a good pitcher. It seems like he does have some potential. Maybe, are there anybody with eye and then like good, maybe Jack O'Dowd would be, that's another, this part gets tough. The draft is 40 rounds. Obviously, you're going to have some that you're just not going to hit on. You just have to kind of accept it and move on. But, it's tough. It's just there's definitely a lot of options. Is this guy... He's solid in the outfield. We'll take a chance on this Owen Casey guy. I know he's only 17, but... Seems like he could be solid in the outfield, and he does have that power potential, so we'll take a chance, and that'll be that. So I am going to do more of this draft off camera because I don't think it would be fun watching me do 30 plus rounds of this. So I will come back and when I come back, we'll probably we'll negotiate with some of the draftees. I'll show you guys what that looks like, and then we will go from there. All right, the 40 round draft is finally over. I did, I guess, about 29 or 30 rounds of it. And so the new thing you'll see this year, if you've played OOTP for a while, is you might have to give contracts to more players than you're used to. So you see going all the way down to the 40th round. So in the past, a lot of these guys did not show up. So it's just a little bitty busy work, a little bit more, but it's all good. So here's Drew Romo. Here's our first round pick. So you see our slot bonus was 4.49. He only wants 1.3 million. So we're just going to meet that demand and submit the offer. And we're just going to do that for most of these guys. Maybe not the late round guys. I mean, they are pitchers though. So I suppose it's never a bad thing to have too many pitchers in your lower levels, if nothing else than just to eat some innings. So we will just meet the demands for all of these guys. And yep, we're going to meet the demand for him. There is one tip that I do want to give you all, I should say. And we will get to that once I do this, once I meet all these offers. I don't think I'm going to sign all of these players. I don't think it's necessary. I will definitely sign the ones that I drafted personally. So there we are. And get Havlicek. And France. Oh, I drafted this guy in my Phillies franchise. That's funny. That's a coincidence. So we'll get him too. And then I don't think we're going to keep these guys. I mean, yeah, we're just gonna toss them back. They can go to college. Maybe we'll get them in a few years. But yeah. So one thing I do want to say is if we go to rosters and transactions, you definitely want to keep your low A team, and depending on how many rookie league teams you have, you want to keep them all kind of. You want to keep them without a lot of players, and you can see why. So a lot of my rookies just got added to this team. And we have 48 players now. If you have 48 players on your rookie league roster, a lot of them are not going to play and develop. So what I like to kind of do is just get rid of a lot of the guys that I did not draft that don't have a lot of great potential. So, for example, like when I took over this team, there were a lot of just half-star kind of guys that I inherited that I knew I wouldn't need. So we are going to kind of get rid of them. We're going to get rid of a couple more of these guys too. A couple of these 1.5 star guys that probably won't amount to anything that I did not draft. So we'll get rid of all these guys. And we'll get rid of Miller, Marrero, Maeda. We'll get rid of Herbert. Is he good defensively? No, he's not. Even better. And I like to do this up until about the 2-star guys personally, but it's really just up to you. And by doing this, I'm also making room for the other guys that I'm going to get. So you see there's 13 players that we just released. It got down to 35. That's still kind of less than I would like it to be. Oh, Nick Decker. He went to a high school near me. Yeah, Seneca in New Jersey, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so there's guys here that I'd probably like to get, more guys that I'd like to get rid of. Let me check a look at so this is a guy, this 1-star guy that I can get rid of too off my low A team. It would be nice if I had like another rookie team. That's the cool thing. Like the Phillies have 2. All right, it is now June 15th. We're about a month away from the All-Star game. Apparently Dustin Pedroia suffered a setback, and it will take at least 4 months until he's ready to play again. Damn, this game is realistic. All right, so we'll take a look at the team home screen. Things have kind of leveled out a little bit. You see, we're still in the wild card race. We're 3 games back, 10.5 back of the Yankees. They're kind of starting to run away with the division. Take a look at team chemistry. I always recommend looking at this. It does play a not insubstantial role. I think that's what I meant to say. I think I said that correctly. So you should always check team chemistry. You see, we're content. It could definitely be a little better. As I said, I would like to try to find a captain at some point. I really think that would be good. You also see Verdugo is disruptive, which isn't great. Also, his setback was delayed. Now he had a setback in his rehabs. Now he's delayed. Chavis is outspoken. Sale is selfish, and Walden is unmotivated. You really don't want anybody on this side. You kind of like to keep people over here. If you have like one or two people over here, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world, but you kind of like to try to keep everything over here. The fact that we don't have a captain is a little rough, I think, but whatever. Maybe we'll find one at the deadline or something, but we got all of our draftees signed, and if we go to rosters and transactions, you see now we have 35 players on our rookie league team instead of probably like 60 that we would have had if I didn't cut a lot of those players. So those lineups and pitching staffs are all set. I have the people in there that I need to get time. High A or low A, I should say. Everything's fine. Everything is A-okay. It seems like a lot of people are struggling, but I think in the next episode we can kind of take a look at the prospects, how they're doing, see if we need to call anybody up or move anybody up to different levels or send guys down. Just update, Danny Salazar is back, and I think he probably, nope, he hasn't made his first start yet since he returned, but he's back in the rotation. We DFA'd Ryan Weber again, so hopefully we don't have to see him in this rotation again, but we probably will. We also called back up Darwinzon Hernandez. We sent him down because he was walking way too many guys, and it seemed like he kind of improved a little bit when he was down in AAA, so we're going to give him another shot because clearly he can be a very, very lethal relief pitcher if he can just get his control under control. But we'll see if that happens. But your Red Sox 38-35, third in the AL East, and 3 games back in the AL wildcard race. Thank you so much for watching episode number 4. I think this is the most episodes of an OOTP series I've done since 2017, I think. So it's been a while, but better late than never. And I will see you guys this week for episode number 5. Thank you.